Just focus on the breath and the movement of your chest rising and falling under your hands. Notice the quality of the breath coming through your nostrils. You might notice the temperature of your house, the temperature of your skin. Beautiful. We come to just the practice, a community of practice, with a heart wide open, curious, ready to explore, supporting each other. We're grateful. Let's go ahead and take a nice deep breath in. And then exhale, HA, ha. One more cleansing breath, inhale. Yeah. And exhale, HA, ha. Beautiful. My heart bows to all of you. Thank you for being here. You can open your eyes and enter in. So grateful to see you all again. It's been a week. How fast a week goes. Today we have some special share circles that will be happening, so be prepared. You'll be going into Zoom rooms and doing some discussion work, and then we're going to do group discussion. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of the layout today, I'm going to start with just a little talk on the doshas. I'm not going to talk forever. I'm going to talk a little less and have you all share a little more. Thank you all for sending me your dosha quizzes. I think I got it from all of you at this point, I think. So thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Does anybody have anything they want to share before I get started with my talk? Any revelations this week? Any difficulties, challenges, any aha moments? Anybody dream about Ayurveda this week? Dora, you were dreaming about Ayurveda?
The other part, revelations, yeah. And, you know, that kind of thing.
Cool.
Just quickly, I started writing down everything I ate. Mm-hmm. I noticed that it is pretty healthy, but my portions are way too big. Mm. And I also eat too fast. So that was like an aha.
Yeah.
I tried a new recipe and my husband even liked it. Moong dal.
Great.
Was really good. And I also tried the abhyanga.
Yeah, the body oiling.
Yes. So that was my week dipping my toes in.
Amazing. Great. Fantastic. Wonderful. All right. Anyone else? Thanks, Dar, for sharing. Yes, go ahead, Natalie.
This week, you mentioned to try to be more mindful when we're eating. And I caught myself eating really fast and then remembering, slow down. I forced myself to put my fork down so I would be so I can slow down eating. Yeah. And also, even though I had started eating, because I forgot to just like give thanks for the food right before, as I was doing it, I'm like, okay, you forgot to do it, but okay, do it now. And I did.
Nice. That's so amazing. Good. That's amazing. No, that's great. There's no even this, right? It's just the minute we come in, thank you for sharing. The minute we come into the spirit of observation, that is the work. That is the journey. And that is beautiful. Like just those moments are so beautiful for me to hear. Anyone else want to share?
I know eating slowly is a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I kind of do that a lot. And during the week, I'm like, I really don't do that a lot. I don't. I was like recognizing, I thought like what I did like maybe 5 days a week, I did like 1 or 2 days a week. So thank you for the conscious eating
Yeah.
tip homework for homework.
Yes. Thank you, Kathy. Wayne.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I definitely second the rapid pace, and like I found even if I did a set of blessing, and gave I still just went into overdrive eat mode and I was still not even the fastest eater at the table, but it still felt too fast. So
Yeah.
I think for me, I realized this is a true practice that's going to take, repetition and more than willpower, but thought power, to
Yeah.
rewire, the way that it's,
Mhm.
been done for so long. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I look forward to it though.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Exactly. We're rebuilding some of the just the habits that we built over a lifetime. And that again is just like that, just being willing to do that and open to do that is such a beautiful gift, right? To our own bodies and to those around us. Anyone else before we begin? Anyone else have any? Okay.
This weekend,
Yes.
in a moment where I would have picked up my phone, I thought about what you said about quiet self-care.
Yeah.
And so I took that I was waiting for someone, and so I had no idea how long they were going to take. And
Yeah.
instead of picking up my phone, it was precipitating outside. I can't remember, maybe it was just like drizzling. And so I was just watching it out the window from wherever I was, and it was so nice. And I was so
Yeah.
okay just being in that moment.
That's wonderful. Yes.
It really was. And then the
Yeah.
things that came to mind also, I was trying not to let myself circle, but I felt very creative. Once my friend got there, I felt like our conversation was, I felt very creative and in the moment.
Yeah.
And I feel like having that quiet self-care really helped me get there. So it's really
Yes.
lovely.
That's wonderful. I call it the art of the pause. And you embrace that, and that's beautiful. That's fantastic. Anyone else? Right. Wonderful. So thank you all. Like I said, I'm going to go through just a little bit of workshopping. You could just listen. You could take notes, whatever makes you feel good. Do that. We are in week 2, and thank you so much for being here. We left off last week just starting to kind of talk about the 5 elements and the 3 doshas. So we just started to talk a little bit about, okay, there's the vata, which is comprised of ether and air. There's the pitta, which is comprised of fire and water. And then kapha, which is comprised of water and earth. And so today I want to just start the course is called Dancing with the Doshas. Today we're going to start to dance a little bit with the doshas, understanding as we enter this realm of dancing with the doshas that it is really a lifelong journey, that we will not just be looking at our own constitution, which is where we'll start, but we'll start to take notice of the qualities that are in everything. And we start to understand that these 5 elements and these 3 doshas exist in all things, in all matter, in all creatures. And as we learn it more and more, we become more aware of little things. We become maybe more at ease when we see a certain energy coming at us because we understand what it's comprised of. We might be less afraid. We also might learn just from understanding this over time how to balance certain things within ourselves and within the environment around us. So we begin to dance. So we'll start with the 5 elements. All of Ayurvedic medicine and studies is focused on the 5 elements. So they do have Sanskrit words that describe these things, and every single one is attributed to a certain principle. You will have this, I sent you all a link with a password, and this will be This week it's going to come to you sooner. Sorry for the delay, but in a couple of days you'll have all of this to be able to look at and go through. You can also look it up online. Everything is available to you these days on the World Wide Web. So, but the the 5 elements are Akash, which is space. This is the principle of pervasiveness, like widespread pervasiveness. The second is Jala, which is water, and that is the principle of cohesion or attraction. I like to think about how water kind of like moves around everything, kind of adheres to, it's attracted to, right? Every little crevice and every little hole. Prithvi is the earth, and that is the principle of inertia, of preservation. I like to kind of attribute it to my work with the chakras and always thinking of like our root chakra being earth and being like this basin that like holds that that is like the mother. So that is Prithvi. Teja is the fire. This is the principle of radiance and shining. I'm going to pause there for a moment. We talked last week about Agni and the digestive fire and how important it is in Ayurveda that we'll spend a lot of time during this course talking about what are we consuming through our ears, through our eyes, through our nose, through our mouths, what's coming into our body. What comes in is what's going to emanate out. So when we're working with fire, fire is not a bad thing, right? Fire actually is what makes things run. It cooks out food. It breaks things down that need to be broken down to pass through more easily. It's important. But when it dies out or it overheats, we are really out of balance and rapidly. Like think about how fast a fire might spread, or without being tended to, how quickly a fire might die. So just something to consider when we are living in balance with the principle of radiance, we are shining, we are glowing. And then the last is Vayu, and that's air. This is the principle of vibration, repetition. I think of not just the breath, the pranayama that we literally have the life force within us, but mantras, repetition, meditations, things that give us that life force, not just in our body, but also in our minds and in our spirit. The 3 doshas are, in Ayurvedic terms, are the combination of each element being paired up with another element. And so the result of that are the 3 doshas, or the 3 humors, the vata, the kapha, and the pitta. This is said, and this is what this whole course is about, is that we're going to explore that what is your physiological, mental, and emotional optimal healthful state? What is it for you? A lot of times we'll talk to someone else and they seem to have a very similar constitution, and it could be very close. But as you learn more and more, you learn the subtleties of your own being. You'll learn how you interact with the doshas of your life, the doshas of your environment, the doshas of the season. So when we bring these elements and these doshas together, we're saying the elements are used to explain all aspects of your physical and mental well-being. We're saying that each of us is born with a certain amount of these elements. Ayurveda sees the elements through all aspects of your body. So we look at balancing and imbalancing, access and depletion in everything, in every aspect of our body. We might even look at our hair and make a determination. We used the tongue as a determining factor as to where we are on the scale. We'll look at our skin. We'll look at our poop. We'll look at different ways that come up, like our eye health or our ear health, etc. So Ayurveda really uses these doshas as a way for us to analyze and bring ourselves back into balance. By understanding these elements, it's said that we can optimize our physical and emotional health. The doshas are of vital significance because they are really actually helping us coordinate everything in our being and around us. So I could attest to that. That's why I'm very passionate about teaching this course. I'm on my way to optimal health. I'm not there, but it's become such a huge tool for me to improve my life, and to really, most importantly, really be aware of myself on a whole different level. It is a real practice of awareness. You'll see me give you a lot of prompts for awareness because that's actually the most important thing. Prakriti is the overall nature, which is your body constitution. So when we talk in Sanskrit, when we talk through the terms of Ayurveda, through the terms of yoga, we talk about someone's Prakriti. This is their overall nature. And it is said that this is actually determined when you are born. And this is within you. Now, it is said that it can absolutely be impacted by conditions outside of you. It can be altered by your own behaviors and your own lifestyle choices, which makes a lot of sense to me, right? So you might be someone who's Prakriti, this is me, I'll use me as an example, is more prone to be at optimal health or close to it being a vegan, but has spent their whole life eating meat and being uncomfortable, right? Choices in my life led me to dis-ease until I was able to understand what my body was saying to me. So Prakriti is really what we're all after understanding, is what is our true nature and how do we keep that beautiful nature that we were given, that was determined at birth, in balance. The doshas provide internal intelligence for balancing body tissue health, waste, and toxins. My personal story is a story of a lot of inflammation. I'm hypermobile and have suffered on and off for years with joint pain. So for me, I know I'm out of balance sometimes when I have inflammation or pain. It is a real voice for me now where I understand I have to cool off. I have to look back and see what it was that brought me to that spot. I need to make some corrections in my lifestyle to make sure I get back on course. We also look at our waste. We talked about this last week about looking at our poop, looking at our tongue, the way we sweat, the way our sweat smells. All of these things actually tell us what is going on in our body. And then the amas, the toxins. Toxins come out in so many different ways. So it can be skin toxins showing up in the skin with little bumps or acne or other types of skin issues. It could be that your hair is falling out all of a sudden, certain qualities of tooth decay, etc. We look to see, like, what is this coming from? How can we either prevent it or stop it? How can we strengthen that area of our life? The more we know now, the better chance we have of preventing disease. What I love about Ayurveda, I'll say this probably at least 6 times in this course, is it is very practical. It doesn't say that you will not have disease ever, because the truth is, and I think we all know this, some things are not really preventable. Some of it is outside influence from our environment, right? The water we drink, pollution in the air. We might have an allergy to something. There could be so many things that are impacting us. Could be previous life choices. We were maybe a smoker at one time or excessive drinker at one time. And while we're living a really good life now, the damage may have been done. There could be accidents. There could be, I don't know, the list goes on. I'll stop myself. But Ayurveda says things might happen still. But because you're living in a state of real reflection and you're really in that kind of conscious consumption mode all the time, you have a greater chance of catching these things earlier and doing the things you need to do to be well. I think that's cool. You become like your own doctor, you know? That's a beautiful thing. So the 5 elements and the 3 doshas, we look at them again. I just love charts, so I just find charts and all the pretty ones I just like to put on the screen. But Pitta and Kapha, as you see, both share the water element, while Vata is all about, right, space and air. Pitta has that fire and water. So you have that kind of, that radiance, that ability to create. Fire is the creator. And you have that water, which is the preservation, which is, which is the flow, which is the ability to manifest. It's really a beautiful sign. And then you have kapha, which is the preserver, the holder, and then that ability to blend in, to work around things with the water, and to really find your way. So all of these are within all of us, and all of these are beautiful. We all have each of these doshas within us. So sometimes I've heard certain people say things like, "Oh, you're a pitta," like in a negative way, or, "Oh, I'm a kapha and I'm so embarrassed," right? I want to say, like, we will have none of that talk in this share circle. All of these are good. We all have these in us, and we all need each other to balance each other out. Could you imagine? I am really vata dominant. I am space and air. Lord help me. I definitely need to fill my life, right, with those pitta kapha dominance, because if I just hang out with all vatas all the time, I'll just be flying away. I will not have anything to ground to when I need to. I mean, listen, I do love a good vata friend. So you vatas out there, we can hang out, we can fly around on purpose and have a good time. But like, there needs to be someone who catches us, right, and pulls us down. Pittas, you need kaphas sometimes to kind of, help you, like, throw a little bit of dirt on there when you're out of control, like calm the fire down. Sometimes you need vatas to get your fire going, right? We need to get you, like, you've died out, you're in depletion. We come by all like, yay, hi, and there goes your fire, it lifts up, right? So we all need each other. And that's what's really important as we go through the study of, and just the practice of the doshas, is never, I implore you never to hate any of these. Yeah. Never hate any part of this within yourself. These are all needed, and they're in everything, and they're beautiful. So we're going to just dive in slowly. I'm going to do what I call just top level review of each of the elements, and then we're going to go into our share circles and then a group share. So we're going to begin with vata, air and ether. I swear I didn't do this on purpose because I'm vata dominant. It just happened this way. So vata itself, the word itself in Sanskrit, actually means wind. And so when you consider this dosha, it's about flow and movement in both body and mind. I think there's maybe one other of you that is a vata dominant, maybe 3 of you, actually. Yeah. So I have a very busy mind. When I was little, they called me Busy Lizzie. I recently had a friend say, "Do you ever turn that off?" And I'm like, "What? Turn what off?" What, this? So the wind, this is a lot of flow and movement. It surely is. This is about blood flow of breath, the movement of limbs and muscles. Remember, you all have this in you, right? So think about the vata when you're speaking. Think about the vata in your body when you're walking or moving your hands. Think about the vata in pranayama when you're just breathing, like we did in the beginning, right? We were focusing in on the vata element. It is important that we start to identify this in ourselves, regardless of how little or how much it shows up in our tests or our constitution, our prakriti. It's also the motivating force, I mentioned this just earlier, behind the other 2 doshas. So vata kaphas, I'll speak about kaphas. Sometimes kaphas will get very sluggish or just like non-motivated. Vatas are like, the best motivators, the best cheerleaders for a kapha who's depleted and needs that help. A vata is going to be the one who gets that kapha going and running and moving. Kaphas often just really like to stay on the couch and just cuddle and just with themselves or anything around them. And a vata will come in and be like, "Let's go, let's do this," right? Same with the fire, like I just explained, a Vata can come in and stir up that fire when it's died out, or there's just a little ember, right? We come in and we're going to get your fire going and get you back on track and back on balance. So when we look a little bit more closely at the Vata, I wish I could, but my screen is being crazy. Again, ether and air. So when we're in balance, very agile, we tend to have dry skin and hair. I do. Thin frame, not everybody, but it's very common. If you are not, so here's something that's really important that I learned when I was studying this. A Vata could be out of balance and very heavy, but their frame is thin. So it's not about weight. So you'll also see people sometimes think like kaphas tend to be heavy, but that's not true. They're more big boned, bigger frames, but they could be very thin. So it's not about thin, skinny, or fat, right? We're not talking about that. We're kind of talking about build. So Vatas tend to have a slim or thin build. They tend to be very creative, very energetic, flexible in both their body and in their mind and in their ability. They're great multitaskers, things like that. They love excitement. I've been called a lover of love. I love new experiences. A lover of love. I don't know. It's a very sweet phrase, but I do, and I am, and I'm okay with that. We'll get that tattoo next. When they're out of balance, hypertension, constipation, weight loss, weakness, arthritis, that joint pain, worry, anxiety, insomnia, and digestive issues. We'll move on to Pitta, and they are, this is the Pitta translation, that which digests things. So a lot of you are Pitta dominant, so you are those who digest things. But the Pitta is the role of transformation, right? So the fire is used to cook, the fire is used to heat, the fire is used to melt, the fire is used to mold, right? Like the fire is so powerful. Pitta dominant individuals are those who have the ability to manifest and transform, to activate, to lead a process through. In addition to moving along the digestive system, right? It's also sometimes very fiery with the hormones or metabolism. So the Pitta, the fire is very dominant in this particular dosha. Pitta dominant people are often sharp-witted, they're competitive, they're highly focused. A lot of them are very outspoken, they're good writers, they're good leaders, speakers, teachers. They are straightforward thinkers, right? They're the ones that are gonna be the team leaders. They're gonna come in, they're gonna set the goals, and they're gonna set the linear, right, steps to get you there. Bright eyes, more of a medium build or athletic build. Again, not always about the body weight, especially in our culture. We can't really assess based on body weight because we do suffer from obesity and diabetes and malnourishment really out of proportion rates. So really about the frame here. People who have too much Pitta, you're going to see a lot of acne, a lot of rashes in their skin. They'll have a lot of digestive issues. So I'll just pause in a little teaching moment here. So when we're working with Pitta and there's that fire there, you're going to see reveals of stress in a fiery way, right? So like I'm Vata dominant, I very rarely got any acne. That wasn't how my body expressed imbalancement, but Pittas will often get things like rashes, or they'll blush more easily, they'll have acne, they'll have heartburn and digestion more, right? Think about that heat. Where anxiety, worry, right? That flying away feeling happens more to the Vata aspect. Now, I'm a Vata Pitta, my Pitta is much smaller. So like, it's not that just one thing happens for me, it's many things, but you start to see over your life as you learn where your dominant is, what tends to happen to you more. And those of you who are tridoshic, which I think definitely one of you are, oh, Dar, right? That's right. Multiple personalities. I remember. Right? That's what your parents said, right? Yeah.
Yes, who are
Okay.
you?
Yes, who are you today? Yes, who are you today, Dar? So the Pitta, when in balance, very strong digestion, lustrous complexion. They usually have very beautiful hair. They're strong appetite, so they can eat a lot. Precise. They're very, again, good leaders. They're just goal-oriented performers, sharp-witted, direct, outspoken. When out of balance, skin rashes, messed up digestion, excessive body heat. They might actually feel burning in their bodies. They might, if they're out of balance, if they tend to have anger issues, which pittas do tend to, that might come with seeing red or burning in their bodies, short-tempered, argumentative, looking for the fight. So these are things that I see some little smirks. So I think it might be resonating with some of you. Moving on to kapha, earth and water. So I love this. It means that which binds things. And there's a few of you kapha dominants. We all have kapha within us though. So I really want you to embrace each of these doshas. They're all beautiful. Earth and water, right? So beautiful. That which binds things. That which it brings structure and stability, not just in the body, but kapha in nature, kapha in group dynamics, right? We will take these doshas into our business meetings. We will think about what elements we want to bring forward. I right now have fire and water and earth right in front of me as a little ceremony for my talk tonight to help me ground, right? We bring these things in. What actually brings us to stability? Kapha is about endurance. We think of the mother. We think of the mother pregnant when we think of kapha. We think of that, that ability to incubate, to hold, that binds the process. Its joints are lubricated and well-oiled and working really beautifully. It is solid and heavy and dense. That's the energy, solid, heavy, and dense. So I like to hug a kapha, like I need kapha friends, and they're very huggable. They're very solid. They're very stable. Heavy. Heavy doesn't necessarily mean your weight again, right? Heavy can be an energy. Dense is kind of that solid, right? Like something dense, something that doesn't fly away, something that's stable. Emotionally, people that are kapha dominant are very loyal. They're very patient, nurturing. I think of like a grandmother type, very calm. When they're in balance, they're very well oiled when they're in routine. They don't like to pick up new habits. They kind of like to stick with what they've got for the long haul. So like a kapha dominant will be a good friend. They'll stick with you for a long time. However, the negative side to a kapha is they also don't like to learn new things, so they can be extremely stubborn. They might really resist change, and they can really, put up boundaries in that way, avoid things, like avoid even helping themselves because it's learning a new thing and they don't want to. So kapha is that beautiful stability. But sometimes when that's stable, right, that foundational has to be kind of broken up and restructured. There's a resistance there. So lastly, when we look at our body type for kapha, when they're in balance, excellent stamina, large and soft eyes, a strong build. So these are usually more large boned people, luxurious hair usually, very smooth skin. They'll just, their eyes are just wide open as you're talking to them. Like you imagine they're like a cartoon with eyelashes just slowly blinking. They're patiently listening to you. They'll support you. They're steady. When they're out of balance, they tend to go into depression. They'll eat a lot and not move. They like to kind of stay still. They'll sleep excessively. They're prone to diabetes. And they'll, like I was just saying, resist change. They get stubborn. So that is our overview tonight. Just the first dance without doshas, just the first dance. And we're gonna go into a little bit of group discussion and in small groups first. And then we're gonna come out. We're gonna spend a little bit of time. I'm gonna try to put you in groups of, let me see how many of you are on tonight. 16, you are all amazing. So I'm gonna do, all right. It's gonna be groups of 3 and 4 for tonight. And what we're gonna do is I'd like us to look at these questions here on the screen. And actually, if you want to even take a quick picture of this on the screen. Me smiling. All right, cool. All right, awesome. All right, so we're going to go into small groups. Those questions are loose guidance for you to talk about. This is actually the goal of these small share groups tonight is please give each other, first of all, time to each speak. I want you to look for commonalities amongst yourselves, like just see what comes up for you. Use the questions as a guide, but I want you to kind of vibe off each other, right? Like, let's say Debbie is like, yeah, this is like, I like actually can't stand like oiling myself. It's just the worst. And it just feels gross. And I always feel like slimy. And I'm like, you know what, Debbie, I actually feel the same way. Or what type of oil are you using? Like, just notice each other as like, I want you to really listen. It's called active listening, and then reflect with that person and just see if there's commonality amongst your group. We're learning the doshas. So I want to slowly over this period of 8 weeks, teach us how to start to recognize our own constitution and start to recognize what it might mean in someone else's. We're going to come back and talk about it. So you might not like even know what you're recognizing in each other. I'm going to try to help you figure that out when you come back. As I start to put the groups together, any questions about what I just went over as I pull myself together and get organized? And you could just talk because I won't be able to see you.
Yeah, can you consciously change your dosha disposition?
Yeah, interesting. Yes and no. So what inevitably happens is depending on the test, you can definitely try to steer it. I've seen that. I've asked a few of you to take tests again because I'm seeing multiple tests like so extremely different that I'm like, okay, I need you to do it a few times till the truth bubbles up because they should never be that different. But Wayne, things that definitely do impact us, that's why I like the Banyan one, is what's going on in our lives and in our environment. What time of your life are you in, right? Like, are you in the middle of your pitta years? Are you at the end of your pitta years? Where are you in the seasons? Ayurveda says eat for the seasons, but where are you? Where are you? Where are you actually in the United States or wherever you live? What time of year is it? What are you eating? Is it right for your dosha? Like all of these things influence. So it's good to kind of watch your test, like find a good test and keep an eye on it. When we get to certain points, we do start to, once you've outgrown me as a coach, if you need more, you move on to an Ayurvedic doctor who will go even deeper and really dive in to see how to balance you. But what's good about taking the test and really starting to map it out and see what's happening in the weather, geographically, what's happening in your life emotionally, physically, and see how things skew, where your imbalances are. It's the study of it that actually helps you start to see more stability over time. But seeing a lot of you are Pitta Vata types, it makes sense to me. It's very common. It's environmentally, we've over I think the decades, the centuries, we're very Pitta dominant culture, extremely, like extremely.
And then one other question, how early can you like determine someone's disposition in age?
Oh, like for kids and stuff, early. You could do it pretty early. And there are Ayurveda specialists that work with kids. And I think it's really great. Like there's a few mothers on this, and I think it's really Chris and Phoenix. Like I think it's really great that you start to observe your kids and start to learn what doshas they are. It really will help you. Oh my gosh, I can go on this forever. These are good questions, Wayne. I'm trying to restrain myself, but I will say it would be a beautiful thing for more parents to do that, because parents, unfortunately, by accident, will give their babies like the food they're eating when it's terrible for their kids. And they don't know. You don't know until you know. My parents gave me tons of dairy when I was little, and I was always with a bloated stomach, and I always had problems. And they were just giving me what they ate. They were just doing what they thought was right. It was the 70s, and we were supposed to drink a glass of milk a day. And like, all these things were like the right thing to do. And I was ridiculously allergic. I wound up in the hospital for almost 2 weeks at 10 years old. They did not know what was wrong with me. I was so dehydrated. I was a mess. And, so understanding that as a parent or parents to be, I think is such a beautiful thing. I often dream of like doing a little bit more study on that and holding a course for parents. I think that would be really helpful. Cool. Anyone else? Those are great questions. I need more questions because I'm not ready. Somebody stall for me quick. Somebody tell me about their day.
I'm definitely Vata quite a bit, but I like being Vata. Like
Me too.
I didn't always like it, but I was just looking at those little images. You know how I love skating. Well, in skating, we do spins like that.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I accept it and I love it. And it's good.
Yeah.
But we got to be a balance.
100%. And that's the thing. I want you all, I want you all to love everything about yourselves. Understanding, and to Wayne's point, that things will change. There will be fluctuations in your life and things that impact. Ayurveda teaches that. Ayurveda says you are born, that prakriti, you are born with it, but there's many things that influence it. So we're always searching for that original state and getting ourselves back to balance. So I will say years ago, I was, my pitta actually was becoming very dominant. I was working 70 hours a week. I had a huge job. I also worked out like 10 hours a week. I traveled a ton. I ate and drank horribly, right? So my imbalance was crazy. I was on fire all the time. I was literally on fire. So something to think about. All right, I'm almost there. Who else? Anyone?
Just recognizing how, as you've mentioned, we all have all the different doshas, just in different portions, and just as you were describing them, I was able to see little bits here and there of of them. And then my daughter who's 20, just as you were describing them, I'm like,
Yeah.
Personality, stubbornness.
Yeah. I feel it also really helps us be more empathetic to other people when we start to understand maybe even where they're out of balance. My mom is pre-diabetic. She sadly just was diagnosed with leukemia and a number of other things. And just starting over the years, just prior to this, I started to see a lot of the imbalance it is, and it just made me more understanding even of why she's in the situation she's in. And it's allowed me to be a little more helpful to her as far as just supporting her, understanding her. She's my mom and I love her, and I know everything about her, but now I understand like her constitution more. I understand like why she does certain things, even from like a personality perspective. And it's been just beautiful for our relationship in so many ways. And she notices it as well. Like it's really been impactful. So in that regard, it's such a beautiful thing.
I'm
All
sorry
right.
about her illness.
Thank you. Yes, please. Oh, thank you. You're so kind. And yes, please just say prayers for her. Thank you. I really appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. All right. There are 3 groups of 4. And there's one group of 3. Any question before we get going?
I have a quick question, Liz. When I was doing
Yes.
the summary of my tests, it
Yes.
was not like myself. So do you continue to take more tests, or how do you do that?
What did you say?
The test, like the Banyan test and the
Yes.
Chopra, this summary came back that like it was talking about a different person. Like
Maybe, or maybe it is talking about you, just parts of you don't know yet. So
Okay.
you just stay open. Yeah. There are definitely things that when I first started studying this, I was like, no way, that is ridiculous. That is not even me. That is, stop it. You know, like I was like, come on. And then as I peeled the layers off, I was like, oh, that is, oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I just want to say, your mom's very fortunate to have you.
Oh, I'm very fortunate to have her too. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for letting me share. I am going to be putting 20 minutes. 20 minutes gives each of you around 5 minutes of talk time. And I will see you on the other side. All right. You can always pop back or text me if you have any questions. Bye. Bye. See you later. Have fun. Bye. Oops. Hi.
Hi.
All right. We still have 20 seconds. Okay. That joined. Someone's okay. All right. Boom, 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 like popcorn. Everyone is back. Fantastic. All right. Wonderful. All right. So I'm going to kind of go group by group. Was that too short? Was that too little time? It was okay.
I felt like it.
It felt like too short. Okay, so a mix. Okay. The first group was Emmanuel, Debbie, Emma, and Chris. So just yeah, what came up for you guys? Any shares from this group?
Brad?
Well, I'll say we had for.
I'm just checking on you. I tried to look in the. What? Yeah, okay, be careful.
Mom, you gotta mute.
Oh, I got her. Okay, Emmanuel, go ahead.
So one conversation for doubts we had, or I brought up, is this idea with this confusion I have with Ayurveda is how to think about Western nutrition, about protein, carbs, and fats, and calories, and like vitamins and things like that. It seems that Ayurveda kind of goes completely, like, thinks about it a whole different way. And so just sort of like, how, if you're coming up with an Ayurveda diet, do you still think about these nutrition facts, or do you sort of just like take that aside and you know, give this full focus?
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to wait till I hear from the whole group. I'm taking notes. That's awesome. Emmanuel, what else from this group? I need to definitely hear from more than one.
Emmanuel brought up a good point while we were all talking, that when we were mentioning like our routines and fitting things into our routine, that time was a factor, like making the time or not having enough time. So I know that came up. Being mindful.
Yeah, Cool.
Yeah.
Debbie, Chris? Is Crystal with- Oh, there she is. Go ahead, Chris.
Hey, so Debbie came up with the suggestion that we should, take 30 minutes out of our routine in the mornings to give us more time to be able to add in a routine or adjust our routine. So that was very, very helpful.
Nice. Cool. And Debbie?
Well, at the end, we talked a little bit about journaling, and I don't think anyone in the group was like a big journal, but that's something I'm gonna start trying to do, at least with my food and
Right.
activity and how I feel every
Right.
day, and then be able to look back, what activity did I have? What did I eat?
Cool. Very good. Awesome. So this group, to summarize, was overall just discussing, and tell me if I have this right, like, can we actually make time to do any of these things? Like, how realistic is it? Yeah. Okay. And then is Ayurveda even, like, in this kind of study of it, are we being asked to consider a balance in nutrition in the American Standard Diet, right? There's all these kind of like nutritionists here in the United States say there's a certain amount of standards we have that we should be adhering to and absorbing every day. So, right, I think the question was, Emmanuel, like, are we still being asked to care about those nutrients and making sure we have the right vitamins and substitutions that we need? Is that right? In this American diet? Okay. Yeah. Cool. So would you say that in your conversations with each other, was there synergy? Did you seem to feel like you got along, agreed with each other mainly?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. I'm going to come back to you for a little bit later. We're going to move on to the next group, which was Phoenix, Wayne, Riva, and Linda. So who wants to start just sharing from this group?
Wayne's the talker.
Wait, did Natalie say that?
No, Reva. Reva
Oh,
said
Reva did.
She wants
Oh,
the
Reva.
pizza.
Oh, really, Reva?
No, in a good way. But I think for our group, with the exception of myself and Phoenix, and actually Wayne, because he knows a lot about it, it's that balance and the time factor, time management, the desire, even if you just do one thing that is, for yourself, because you can't get yourself overworked and stressed over, I've got to do this routine, because it's like, if you don't want to do it, it's not fun. So if you make it easy and it doesn't have to be lengthy, it can just be, get up and stretch, and that's all you do. If yoga was factored into it, but sometimes people don't have time for that. So you take 5 minutes and stretch and, it's hygiene more or less for me, because it has to happen anyway. So, and I don't mind doing it, and it's actually fun. So that doesn't matter. If I get the stretching in, I get it in. If I, but I'm going to shower and I'm going to do those things. So
yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Who's next? Linda, Phoenix, Wayne? Linda, do you want to share a little?
Well, mine was just a learning experience listening to them, because I really don't know that much about it yet. I'm here to learn. I'm here with a blank page or an empty book, an empty composition book, to emulate my academic look on life. And Wayne had some nice questions, and he also had some nice statements that he said, and so did Riva and Phoenix. So I'm learning from them. So
cool. Awesome. I'm excited. Thank you. Wayne?
I don't want to. Did Phoenix drop out?
I think she might have. Yeah, I was just checking my taxi. I think she had to jump off. Yeah, because the kids.
All right. Well, I guess in light of that, you know, we're talking about kind of barriers to entry, if you will, or outside influences getting in the way. That was, I think, something we could all relate to. You know, at some point in our lives, how making Ayurveda a priority, it doesn't seem to be, you know, doesn't seem to come easy given our current lifestyles. So, you know, changing the practices kind of one at a time, you know, might help. We talked a little bit about morning and night routines and how just incorporating practices into the morning and night routine can, I don't know, have really profound effects and something to build on, foundation to build on.
Yeah. Cool. So I hear with this group overall that summarize this lifestyle may be hard in the world we live in. So let's find small, accessible solutions or entry areas to make it work. Yeah, does that sound pretty? Okay, cool. All right, next group, Lilani and Roland, Amanda and Kathy. So who wants to start from this group?
I'll jump in. It's really cool, like we're all on the same level as far as starting this. And I feel all of us have kind of put the rudder in the water a little bit, but we just don't know where to aim it. We're kind of like of a wide angle approach. But there's a passion and lots of self-love and a passion for self-love and self-care to do better. And noticing, I think Wayne had said, making little changes can be pretty profound, which is kind of cool because you're more apt to do the next change. And this is going to be a process. It's not going to be an event. So it's incorporating a little bit here and there, and eventually you will have a full practice.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Lilani and Roland.
Yeah, so, you know, like I started some things, you know, and I shared what I bought from the Banyan site. And I still have them, and they're like maybe a year old. So the intention was there when they were bought, and then, you know, I started doing things, and then I don't know, life happens, you know, and so I have to get better, and so that's why I'm here, you know, to find out what is doable, and, you know, not try to do everything all at once, but maybe just little bits at a time.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda.
So just to echo what the other people said in my group, yeah, we were talking about basically about routines, and I really learned a lot about what others were doing because I'm so brand new to this. And so I even said that I started brushing a decade ago, and I have the brush. Well, I did it like once, and I still have the brush, and I honestly don't even know the benefits of it anymore, and I haven't used it. And I was thinking, like, I had this thought, and we really all echoed this, where it was, you know, we try to start something and then it doesn't stick with us. And I just wonder, like, now I just tell myself, okay, if you don't stick with it, then maybe it's not for you. And I'm like, okay, is that an excuse, or is that a real thing? I mean, I have no idea. So but I liked what Kathy just said with, you know, when we talked that we don't really that we want to start making these little changes, but we don't necessarily know where to start or what works for us. And that really summed up that thought and how I'm feeling.
Okay. Thank you so much. So this group, I think the consensus was, if I got it right, it's hard to keep things going. A lot of stop and start in our lives. Maybe not for all of you, but that's a discussion point. And maybe we just try to start one thing at a time. Yeah, pretty much. Little baby steps. Okay. Last group was Sue, Dar, Sandra, and Natalie. Who wants to start in this circle here? Just giving us a little overview of what you talked about.
Our share circle, our little group, focus more on the first few questions. Do we have doubts? And I believe for us, it's personal for everyone who's in this group who decided to join. I feel from our conversation, we all have our hesitations on what this commitment is and what we want to get out of it. And just getting to learn ourselves and learn more about ourselves, and the conflict mentally between the outside talk and just getting to know each other and ourselves better and making these small changes, or wanting to just jump into it and get it all done, but knowing that that's also not possible.
Thank you. Awesome. Dar, or whoever wants to go next.
I'll go. So yeah, we we talked about our own doubts, not really with this program or what we're doing so much per se, but we all have our own unique challenges with regards to our diets and our eating habits. But one thing that we all agreed on is that we are like really psyched to be in this program and learn more about it. So there's like definitely like a common like denominator there that we're in this, we want to learn, we want to do what we can for our own personal health.
Nice. Thank you. Who's next on this one?
Yeah, I'll just chime in. I think we definitely talked about our relationship to food, and I think we also shared about our relationship towards ourselves and what was that common goal, that one impacts the other. So the more compassion and love we can have towards ourselves, the more we're going to be present for our meals and our routines, and not force them and just accept them as they are. So kind of think about compassion and love.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you.
And
Sandra?
what stood out for me is how much outside influences affects everyone so much. It's because I don't necessarily believe that everything out there, well, I know everything out there is not meant to be good for us. Yeah. And so it's not just like making the decision to be sitting here and be conscious of what we're doing. It's also making a decision to have to make good choices outside too. And that takes just like so much work. You can walk in with the greatest of intention to a restaurant and say, do you have this, and there's not that. So it's not only a battle inside of, for us and trying to make the good choice. It's battling something like the bigger being.
Wow. Boom. Well said. So this group, diets and eating habits vary, but we are all excited to learn more, and we realize that it's going to take some work. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we don't have a lot of time tonight, so I just kind of want to all address like each group like broadly, and just certain things that kind of stuck out and have a little dialogue. So group one, that was Emmanuel, Debbie, Emma, and Chris. The very first question that came up was about how about nutrition, right? Was that the Emmanuel? I think this is our dialogue, you and I. So I think number one, what's really important for all of us to remember is we are learning and exploring the practice and the lifestyle of Ayurveda through the lens of today, in which we live in today. because we can't actually live in a pure Ayurvedic lifestyle as it was written 5,000 years ago. As far as certain specifics, it just doesn't suit our culture today. So a lot of why I create the share circles the way I do, and I study certain authors and certain Ayurvedic doctors the way I do, is because I really want to try to make it relevant for today. So some of the things we want to think about when we're coming into the Ayurvedic diet and we're coming into different recipes. So I'm going to hit this from two sides, is one, buying Ayurvedic cookbooks that are created by those within our culture is really helpful, because they're going to talk about the foods and the nutrients that are accessible to us. And that will really help us acclimate to a more Ayurvedic lifestyle where we live today. I do have a lot of spices shipped in, and I do play with spices a lot, but you can still be Ayurvedic in your diet, let's say 70–80% Ayurvedic, with the foods found in your own supermarket and your CSA, etc. The other thing that's really interesting to me, Emmanuel, because I'm Ayurvedic vegan, is so I do definitely pay attention to like absorption. If I'm feeling a certain way, am I a little low in something, right? Like if I'm sluggish, do I need more vitamin D? Like watching my foods, learning my intake at the same time as I'm watching, right, my dosha balances. It kind of all goes hand in hand for me now. So if I'm inflamed, I'm looking at everything in my life. I'm looking at what type of foods have I been just consuming. I'm looking at stress factors from the external. Group 4 talked about that. There's so many outside impacts on me and my life. I'm looking at output versus input. So when it comes to nutrients, Ayurveda is actually a really, I think, a more, in some ways, a stronger indicator, because it's yourself getting used to yourself. And you might be just popping vitamins every day. You might be overdoing it. So Ayurveda is asking you to be a greater observer of the self. And you'll say, hold on a minute, I think I'm having too much of this, or I'm having too little of this. I do subscribe to getting your blood drawn at least 2 to 3 times a year to check your levels. I think that's very important. I do that. I think it's important to have a physical every year, and make sure we have access to amazing medical facilities, etc. We'll all have different opinions on doctors, and that's okay, but we should take advantage of the types of tests that we can get to make sure that we are balanced. Truly balanced. But Ayurveda does help us. My tests always come back really great, and I really bow to the Ayurvedic lifestyle for that. That has helped keep me in balance largely. So I'm really happy about that. Routines. Debbie, I think, brought up that I think all of you were not fans of journaling in your group. Is that right? Okay, yeah. Journaling is, I would like to say this, think about it, and this is for all of you, not just, each group. I'm just going to bring up some things that popped out for me. Journaling is a way of creating a space of self-observation. It doesn't have to be, you're not submitting this to a publisher. This is not to get on Oprah's best book list. This is just for your own self-observation. I started journaling every day, probably 7 or 8 years ago. I mean, my journals, if you looked at them, sometimes they just make no sense. I'm an artist, so some mornings I'm just scribbling and drawing flowers. And other mornings there's pages and pages of ranting, right? It's a venue in which it allows you to express and self-observe. You all have different personalities and different dosha types. For some of you, you're gonna want it to be, right? Those who are more kapha might want it to be a routine and very specific every day. Avata, it's gonna be all over the place. My journal looks exactly like I am. One day I'm super arty, the next day I'm super serious and intense, and then the next day I'm kind of in the middle. Let your expression come out the way it needs to, and that might take the pressure off of journaling. I definitely know there's things that are prompts out there that can help. We just did that with our 200 hour. We did 30 days of prompts. Sometimes prompts help, but even that gets boring sometimes, right? So I think it's just showing up for your journal every day. Even if you write one word, it's just about showing up for yourself and observation. I hate journaling. Close, put it back on the dresser. But it's building that self-observation. It's building that ability to start to get to know yourself at a different level, to be sometimes that third-party observer of self. Helps us come into more awareness of where we need to be. Group 2, Phoenix, Wayne, Ariva, and Linda. Yeah, barriers to entry, I think, is what Wayne had actually phrased it as, and there was talk in this group as well, as outside influences getting in the way. We live in our culture today, we live in a time of an enormous amount of sensation and stimulation. So we have to be, I think, as individuals, just going in with eyes wide open on that, which I think you all were, just based on your answers tonight. We are living in a very distracted world, extremely. And so it is actually even more critical that we really fight for that self-care time more than ever before. So it is the amount of stimulation that we're being asked to absorb right now is not even healthy for our nervous system. It is completely unhealthy. So we might want to, and I invite you to just journey with me on this, because I have to do this for myself, is consider, and I'll use Wayne's phrase because I love it, consider those barriers of entry and really observe them, maybe write about them. For me, I run 2 yoga studios and a consulting business. My barriers to entry sometimes is a very full calendar. So when I'm going out of balance, you know what I do? I take off. I give my classes away and I take off from my, and guess what I learned? I didn't even know this. Nothing blows up. It's all still there the next day. I'm just calmer, back in balance, and like can actually function again, right? So assessing those barriers to entry and really looking at them, building a little relationship with them might actually help us to find ways to balance out time and find more time for self-care when we actually look at what is in our way, right? Scrolling through your phone in the morning would be a barrier to entry. And I'm not going to make you raise your hand because I'm pretty sure almost all of us do it. So, that 5 minutes, because it goes really fast, doesn't it? You're like, what could you have done in that 5 minutes? You could have done some routine. You could have meditated. You could have journaled. You could have journaled how hard it was to not scroll. Sorry, someone's here. All right, let me move on to group number 3. All right, so Leilani, Amanda, Kathy, Roland. Yeah, it is hard to keep things going. So, all right, we identify these barriers to entry, and we're like, we got it. Guess what? This phone is going to go in the kitchen, and I'm going to wake up, and I am not going to scroll. And then your mother calls you one night, you didn't hear it. She's so upset. She can't believe you didn't pick up because your stepfather this and that. So you say, you know what? All right, this is coming back. Yeah. And then it's over, right? I think this is where I bring up one of the things that has helped me so much in my life. It's a very simple word. It's called grace. And we have to give ourselves grace to fluctuate, grace to return. I don't know where we learned this, but we think when we started something and we stopped, that just means it just, oops, well, there it goes. It wasn't for me. But I implore you, I invite you to come back to it a few times before you make a determination if something's not for you. A lot of times we're hard on ourselves. I know I am, I speak for myself. And so we'll just be like, that didn't work for me. I promised myself 7 days in a row on my Peloton. I only did 1. I'm going to sell the Peloton. I'm going to use it as a coat rack. Grace, have grace for yourself, brush it off, stand up, go back to it. And that is the love that we start to build for ourselves. That is when we don't give up on ourselves. Maybe we try it in a different way. Maybe we get an accountability partner that we met in an Ayurvedic share circle and say, you know what, just help me do this 3 times a week. I'm going to check in with you on every Sunday. And if I did it once, tell me I did a great job anyway, because I also don't do well with like negativity, right? Like just help each other out. Have that grace. Okay. The last group, yeah. So I love this one too, right? It is so much to learn. And there's so many variables in all of our lives. Every single one of us on the screen have very different lives with very different impacts. I grouped you all together based on your doshas, which you might have figured out by now, based on your dominant dosha and your secondary. And yet we're all really different. And yet we all have different outside impacting scenarios going on around us every single day. You know, on the flip side of that, on the yoga side, we talk about chakras and our developmental stages, and even just how we were impacted as children can make us so different. We can be sitting next to someone with a very similar dosha constitution, and yet my child journey was different than yours, and that changes who we are today. So I think it's about just taking this in really little bites and being honest. I want to end on this because we only have about a minute. The most important thing when we travel through Ayurveda is to be honest with ourselves at all times. I will never sit here and tell you that I'm perfectly adhering to a strict Ayurveda lifestyle at all times, because I would not be honest. I'm about 70 to 80%. That's happiness. I'm pretty happy with myself because I live in America and I work a lot of hours a week, right? I can't even be 100% if I wanted to. When I'm at 80, I think I'm the queen of like whatever. I'm like, yeah, anyone, like I want to thank my mom, I want to thank God, I want to, you know, like I get so excited. On bad weeks, I'm like maybe 40% Ayurvedic, right? Like, let's be honest, it is not easy. Depending where we are at in our lives too. I'm going to end with this. We'll talk about the stages of life next time, which are very interesting. Pitta, your Pitta years are when you're in your 20s to your late 50s, early 60s. And these today would be considered the years that you're building a profession, you're building a family, right? We're going to talk about how that impacts the Ayurvedic lifestyle choices. Later, you're in your Vata years, that's kind of 65 plus, you're retired, you have more time on your hands, but your body has changed and you also are going to start dealing with other things. So you might not have that fire of manifestation and creation burning around you, but now, right, the bones are getting brittle. The digestive system has changed. The skin is drying up. The hair has changed. When we're little, it's kapha. We like to get like the little chunky baby that just wants to be cuddled, right? So we're going to talk about that next week and how and let's have patience, right? We all want to know right away, is this going to work for me? Can I do this? Does this even make sense? Step by step, let's learn together. And remember, on a bad day, I'm like 40. On a good day, I'm like 80. And I'm clear about that because I know the environment I'm in and I know what's realistic for me. So we just have to learn that within our own world and our own selves. I hope that I answered some questions tonight. A little, Emmanuel. All right, a little. Okay, Debbie, good. Okay, Amanda, excellent. Let's do a closing meditation. My dog is going to join. I suddenly have a dog. That threw off all my doshas. I suddenly am co-parenting a dog. So we'll talk about that next week. All right, let's go ahead and just come to eyes closed, sit up nice and tall. Take a nice deep inhale and go ahead and exhale, HA. You can bring your hands to prayer at the heart center if you'd like, or just come back to that pile up of the hands on your heart. We just end this with just the acknowledgement that life is a journey. And while it might sound like cliche, Ayurveda says the most important thing is the journey, not the destination. And so we come to the close of our time together this evening, asking for grace, wisdom, patience. And we bow to the self, just a little nod, just for showing up and for caring enough to want to make some small changes to be better. My heart bows to yours. I thank you so much for your time and your energy and your wisdom tonight. Until next time, namaste. Thank you, everybody, so
Stay.
much.
Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye, guys.
Meet
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, lovelies.
Good night, and thank you, Liz. I'm really intrigued about this because some of the stuff you mentioned about inflammation and
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
experiencing my knee.
Yeah. 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 I know. I think you and I both